Students, is the screen visible? Can you see the presentation?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me put it in slideshow mode. Okay, so hope Ullas sir have finished the first chapter already. The last topic, layering I did, the other remaining topics Ullas sir has discussed in the previous class. So this in this class we are going to start with a new chapter, application layer. Okay, so till now in the first chapter whatever we have discussed is the basics of computer networks. Like you need to know all those things to understand how these layers work. Okay, so based on that knowledge we are going to start with the application layer. So when I start with application layer, that means we are trying to understand networking from top down approach, because application layer stands at the top. Okay, so below that is transport layer, next is network layer, next is data link layer, and finally physical layer. Okay, so we are starting to understand computer networks from the top layer. So basically it is a top down approach. And again, if I want to stress more, it is with respect to a sender's point of view, because as a sender I sit in application layer and I start creating my message and sending it. If it is a receiver perspective, then we have to start understanding the computer networks from bottom layer. Okay, because receiver will receive the packet at physical layer first, then it comes to the data link layer, network layer, then transport layer, then to the application layer. Okay students, so let us go ahead and see what are all the contents of this chapter 2. So principles of network application. So what are all the principles that you need to understand with respect to network applications? Then we will start with the biggest application of computer, the first application of computer networks, that is web, www. Then we will understand HTTP protocol. Then comes FTP protocol. Then we are going to start with electronic mail, so SMTP, POP3, IMAP, then DNS, followed by P2P, that is peer-to-peer applications, and socket programming at the end. So these four 2.2, 2.3, 2.4 and 2.5 are very important because they are completely protocols. How these protocols work, what is the frame structure, what is the need of this protocol, what are all the features that it gives to the next layer, these things we are going to study in this chapter. Okay, so let's start with the principle of network applications. So what are the goals of application layer? Conceptual implementation aspects of network application protocol, transport layer service models, client server, then peer-to-peer, these different. So what is the difference between client server and peer-to-peer application, students? Any guess? What is a client server approach and what the other approach is peer-to-peer? What are they basically?
So the client sends the request and the server responds to the request in a client-server approach. And in the peer-to-peer, there's no client and server. Both of them, say there are two computers in the network, they have equal capacity to send and accept request, like
So basically,
response
they
to
both
request.
act as client sometime and server sometime. Okay. So now, what you said is right. In client server approach, there is a centralized server. Every client will send a request to the server, and server will accept that request and send a response to that particular client. And in peer-to-peer approach, there is no centralized server as such. Every peer or every node can act as a server at some point of time, and it can act as a client at some point of time. That's about client server and peer-to-peer approach. Now, how do you differentiate between a client and a server? I think, have I discussed it? What is the major difference between a client and a server?
The
Have I
client,
discussed?
yes, sir. You've discussed it, sir.
Okay, fine then. Fine then. Then we will not discuss it again. We'll go ahead. Okay. So that's about client server and peer-to-peer approaches. So learn about protocols by examining popular application level protocols. So all these protocols listed over here: HTTP, FTP, SMTP, POP3, IMAP, DNS. All these are application layer protocols. There are few more application layer protocols, but we are not going to study those in this curriculum. Okay. So in your syllabus, we have only these protocols which we need to study in application layer. So how do you create network applications using socket API? So what are sockets? How do you use sockets for communication? That's where we are going to discuss over here. So that's about the outline, like what we are going to study here. So some networking applications: email, web, text messaging, remote login, peer-to-peer. There are many applications. We will actually take every application and we will categorize it. Okay, that's what we are going to learn here. You will understand that once we discuss more about this chapter. Okay, creating a network application. So how do you do that? So write a program that run on end systems. Yes, you need to have a program which runs on end system, maybe application itself. Communicate over network, that has to communicate over network. For example, web server software communicates with browser software. Yes. No need to write software for network core devices. So as a network application developer, you need not worry about the core devices. Okay, you need to understand the working of core devices, but there is no need for you to do anything with the core devices. Okay, you are not going to do any changes or manipulation in the core devices. That will be handled by the ISP. Okay, as a network application developer, you have to write your software for the end devices. Okay, application on end systems allow for rapid application development and propagation. So you can see here application to application communication. Okay, so possible structure of applications: it can be client server or peer-to-peer, which I told you already. Application architectures: what are the two application architectures that we have? It is client server and peer-to-peer. In IoT applications, there are many more, like um, subscribe and publish and subscribe architecture. All those things comes in IoT applications because they are low weighted protocols. So we are not studying that here. As of a general network is concerned, we have two types of applications. One is client server, other one is peer-to-peer. In short, you can call it as P2P. Client server architecture: a server should be always on. It's always on host. Permanent IP address, which is very important. I think I have not told this. permanent IP address should be there for the client, sorry, for the server. Reason, because generally every client will be approaching the server, and if you are changing the IP address of the server repeatedly, either manually you may change, or with the DHCP server you may change. If you do that, contacting that server will become very difficult, because you will not get to know the IP addresses properly. So the server's IP address should not change regularly. Okay, data centers for scaling. Yes, if you want to scale your server, you need to have data centers. That means where you collect the whole data and put it in different racks or servers. Okay, what is a client? Communicate with server, maybe intermittently connected. So many have dynamic IP addresses. Yes, dynamic IP addresses, in the sense, as I told you before, in a class, suppose in a lab, suppose you come with your laptop, a IP address will be given to your laptop at that point of time, and when you go out of the laptop, an IP address which is assigned to your laptop can be taken back. Okay, so that's a dynamic IP address which is being assigned to your system. So once that IP is taken back from your system, that IP can be given to another system also. Okay, so basically effectively utilizing the IP addresses comes into picture here. Okay, so which cannot be done for server. That's what I told you. Do not communicate directly with each other. So communicating directly with each other is not possible in client-server architecture, but that is possible in peer-to-peer architecture. That's what you do in peer-to-peer architecture. Okay. So you can see here, anything is connected to a server, and from server you are getting the response. Okay. So what happens in peer-to-peer? No always on server. Yes, because every system acts as a server here sometimes. So there is no need for always on server. Centralized server basically. Arbitrary end systems directly communicate. One important thing. Peers request service from other peers, provide service in return to other peers. Okay. Self scalability, new peers bring new services, service capability, as well as new service demands. Okay. So peers are connected and can change IP address, like regularly they can change IP addresses. So it's a complex management basically. Peer-to-peer architecture is a complex management, because you don't have a centralized server there. Communication becomes more challenging. Okay, so that's about the difference between client-server architecture and peer-to-peer architecture. So let us see about process communicating. So what is a process, students? Can anyone tell me what is a process? What do you mean by a process? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, a program under execution is a process.
A program under execution is a process. Okay, any other answer? Can a system have multiple processes running at a time?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in a particular system, if multiple processors are running and if those processes communicate each other, it is termed as inter-process communication. Okay, if there are multiple processes running in your system at a time, and if say for example two processes in your system communicate each other, they are termed as inter-process communication, because you are communicating within that system. Okay, students, there is no need of network there. Okay, a process is a program running within a host. Within the same host, two processes communicate using inter-process communication defined by operating system. Okay, processes in different hosts communicate by exchanging messages. In that case, definitely you require network. Clients and servers: client process, process that initiates communication; server process, process that waits to be connected. So basically what happens in every server, there will be a port which will be running this server process all the time. Okay, so it will be in like in a mode where it will be waiting for any new connection. Okay, when there is a new connection request comes to that server establishes a connection with a new port, because it has to keep a waiting port always empty, because it is waiting for someone. Okay, whenever a request comes through that port, it will assign it to a new port, and a connection will be established with a new port. Is that clear? That happens in the server side. So similarly in client side also there should be a process which should be running when you are trying to do a communication, but whereas in server every time it should be running. You will understand this clearly when you do socket programming. Okay, so applications with peer-to-peer architecture have client processes and server processes both in its system. So yeah, what are sockets? Processes sends and receives messages to and from its socket. Okay, socket is basically combination of IP address and port number. Students, you can make a note of it. Socket is basically combination of IP address and port number. Okay, so it is located between between the application layer and transport layer. Okay, so basically through this your messages have will get transferred. Is that clear, students? So socket is kind of a door. Sending process uses this door to transfer the messages. Sending process relies on the transport infrastructure on the other side of the door to deliver message to socket at the receiving process. That means, see here your application is running and there is a process which is running in the application layer, and this socket, this is a door for sending that packet outside your system. Okay, so outside your system it depends on the transport infrastructure which is being handled by the network layer. We will see to that later. Okay, what you have to understand here now is there is something called as socket, which is a kind of door. Socket is basically combination of IP address and port number. Okay, students, so these processes are basically controlled by the application developer, and the other layers are controlled by operating system. Okay, so addressing process, to receive a message, process must have an identifier. Of course, we know that it is basically IP address. So here it is a 32-bit IP address. That means it is a IPv4 address is required. Instead of IPv4, you can have IPv6 also. Does IP address of a host on which process runs suffice for identifying the process? No, many processes can be running on the same host. Very important, students. You can ask, sir, there might be multiple processes running in a particular system, and those multiple processes send information to different servers. Then the IP address of those requests remains same. So globally, that request will be will look like a unique one. Okay, but how do you differentiate it? Adding a port number to it. Is that clear? That's what. Identifier includes both IP address and port number associated with the process on host. For example, port number of HTTP is 80. For mail server, it's 25. To send HTTP message to some server.edu web server, IP address will be 128.119.245.12 and port number is 80. Is that clear, students? So that's how it works. So basically combination of port number and your IP address makes the packet globally unique. Is that clear? Globally unique. So which you have to clearly understand. And that combination itself, you can call it as socket. Types of messages exchange, basically request message and response message. Message syntax, what fields in message and how fields are delineated. So basically it depends on the protocol. If you are using an HTTP protocol, syntax is different. If you are using FTP protocol, syntax is different. Different protocols will have different syntax. So message semantics, meaning of information in the fields. Rules for when and how process send and respond to the messages. Again, that also depends on the protocol. Protocol itself is rules. Okay, so what are protocols? We have already discussed it. It is defined in RFCs, allows for interportability, sorry, interoperability. So HTTP, SMTP, for example, HTTP and SMTP. So just a moment, students. Hello. ನಾನು ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇದನ್ನು ತಗೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ, ಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಇವರು. ಆಯ್ತು ಆಯ್ತು. ನಾನು ಒಂದು 10 ನಿಮಿಷ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ. Yes, students. So proprietary protocols. Skype is an example for proprietary protocols. What do you mean by proprietary protocols, students? Can anyone let me know what do you mean by proprietary protocols?
No one can use the port number.
Okay, not an exact answer. Okay, can be considered. Any other answers, students, for proprietary protocols?
I mean the protocol also. Protocol.
Okay, okay. Okay, any other answer?
Their organization or something.
Yes. So basically a protocol which is developed to use for a particular organization or to use for a particular device. Say for example, EIGRP is a routing protocol which was developed by Cisco initially, and only Cisco routers could use that EIGRP. Now it's an open source. Any router can use EIGRP now. But initially when EIGRP was developed, only Cisco routers could use those routing protocols. Okay, so that means it's a proprietary protocol of Cisco. Similarly, many applications will be there, many protocols will be there which is specific for a particular organization or for a specific vendor. Okay, those kind of protocols are called as proprietary protocols. Skype is also a proprietary protocol. Basically, it's a peer-to-peer application example. So we will see to that later. So how Skype can be termed as proprietary protocol. Okay, you don't have a specific, see, to use Skype you need to have that application with you. You need not go for a browser directly. You can have the application and use Skype. Okay, so I will give you some more examples later. So that's about yeah. What transport services does an application need? Very important, students. Yes. Can anyone, yeah, anyway, it's here in your screen. So data integrity, yes, some applications require 100% reliable data transfer. Integrity means the data what you transfer. Say for example, if you are transferring ABC and receiver should receive ABC. It's not that receiver will receive ACB. You can say that the data is right. No, data is not right, because what you sent is ABC and the receiver has received ACB, which is wrong. When you send ABC, receiver should receive ABC only. Okay, that is data integrity. So some apps require 100% reliable data transfer. Yes, for example, file transfer, web transactions, all those things require 100% reliability. So that's a thing which is given by the transport layer. Okay, that service is not provided by the application layer, students. That is given by the transport layer. We will discuss that in detail when we study transport layer. Okay, other apps can tolerate some kind of loss. For example, if you are using an audio application or a video conferencing, 1 or 2 frames if it is missed in between, it's fine. You can still go ahead with the communication. You won't lose much there, right? See, you say for example, now we are using a audio application. I am teaching something to you. If you miss a second in between, I hope you can understand rest of the things even after that. So okay, those kind of applications can tolerate some loss. Okay, that means as a end user you understand that's a different thing, but even if there is 1 or 2 packet loss, your communication will still continue. Your system will not stop the communication because of that loss. Okay, so that kind of applications are called as loss tolerant applications. So all these are the services provided by transport layer to the applications which is running in the application layer. That is data integrity. Next one is timing. Some applications require low delay to be effective. Of course, internet telephony, interactive games, all these requires very low delay. For example, video conferencing. Of course, if you need to have very low delay, because if there is huge delay for every frame, if there is a delay involved, the communication will not be good. Okay, so low delay. Say for example, for any kind of data transfer, even if there is little delay, you can tolerate it, you can wait, and definitely you'll get the response. But if that delay is incurred to multimedia applications, if you are playing a game, interactive game, if there is a delay in it, obviously you are going to miss out something there. Okay, so that is very important. Timing, that also is provided by transport layer. Throughput, some applications require minimum amount of throughput to be effective. Other applications make use of whatever throughput they get. So for example, elastic applications. Okay, what do you mean by elastic applications? The applications which does not require a specific throughput for communication. Okay, whatever the throughput you have, that is sufficient for the application to transfer its data. Say for example, I am requesting a web page from a server, so I have very low throughput, but still the communication will happen. It takes time to give me the web page, but definitely it will happen. Okay, those kind of applications are called as elastic applications. Whereas there are some applications which require specific throughput. It will clearly indicate you that I need this much throughput. I need, say for example, I need 2 Mbps of connection, only then my application will work. Okay, so again, that service can be provided by transport layer. And finally, security, encryption, data integrity, authentication, all these security options can be given in the application layer also, but transport layer also can give this kind of a service. Okay, students, so these are the transport services an application require. Please keep this in mind. If you get a question, what transport services does an application need, you have to clearly mention all this. Am I clear, students? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Transport service requirements, some common applications. This is a very good table, students. File transfer. It's a normal application. No data loss. We cannot tolerate any loss here, right? File transfer, we cannot tolerate any loss. Even a small data is missing, that means the whole data can be of useless. Okay. File transfer, we cannot tolerate any loss, and it can be an elastic application because we don't specifically tell that this much data throughput is required for us. Okay, so it's an elastic application. Time sensitivity is also no. It doesn't mean that when I say there is no time sensitivity, it doesn't mean that okay, it can be sent, you send a request today, tomorrow you get the response. Not like that. There is no specific time, because some application tells that within 10 microseconds I have to receive the response, or else the application will not continue. So that kind of a time sensitivity is not there for this application. That's what the meaning here. So I'll give you 5 minutes, 2-3 minutes time, students. Please go through this slide. Email, again, there should be no data loss. It can be elastic and no time sensitive. Web documents, yeah, we will take an example of audio video, real-time audio video conferencing. Loss tolerant, yes. Even if there is a frame, miss out of frame, still our communication continues. That happens every time, it happens. Okay, even in our audio communication, this is a real-time audio communication which I am doing now. If 1 or 2 frames are missed in between, it works. Communication will still continue. And elastic, no, it is not elastic. At least some basic requirement is there with respect to throughput. For audio, it should be at least 5 kbps to 1 mbps, and for video it is 10 kbps to 5 mbps. Okay, that should be there. Below this, your connection will not start at all. Time sensitive, yes, hundreds of milliseconds. Hundreds of milliseconds is the time sensitivity for this real-time audio video applications. Just go through the other example, students. Just I'll give you 1 minute. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Yeah, Internet Transport Protocol Services. What we understood now previously is transport services does an application require. An application require these many transport services. What services a transport protocol can provide? Okay, that's what we can see here. So what we listed there, all those services will be provided by these transport services. There are two protocols which we study under transport layer, TCP and UDP. Is that clear? Only two protocols we study under transport layer, but both are very, very important, and there is lot of things to understand under these protocols. Okay, so TCP and UDP, which comes under transport layer. Let me highlight it. TCP, UDP, which comes under transport layer, are very, very important. Okay, what services does a TCP provide? Reliable transport. That means you can rely on that. Whatever the data that you send, definitely it will reach the destination. If it is not going to reach the destination, you will get a information that the packet has not reached the destination. Either you retransmit or check what is the issue. Flow control. What do you mean by flow control? Whether the receiver is ready to receive your packet or not. You need to know that. When you are going to someone's house, you need to know at least whether that person is there in the home or not. Okay, so we need to know it. That is always better. So that is basically flow control. Okay, then congestion control. So when you are traveling from one place to another place, what is the traffic intensity there? Whether you can travel in time or not. Okay, very important, right? Similarly, congestion control, this feature will inform the sender that okay, there is lot of congestion in the network. Even if you send your data, that may get lost. It may not reach the destination in right time. Okay, so that is congestion control. So if there is congestion, your data transfer will be done little bit later. Okay, that's what the meaning of congestion control. Don't get confused with the flow control and congestion control. Flow control is basically with respect to the receiver, whether receiver is ready to receive it or not. Congestion control is basically with respect to the intermediate networking devices, whether there is heavy traffic in the network or not. That you are going to check with congestion control. So these are the main things which TCP provides. What does TCP not provide? Does not provide timing, minimum throughput, guarantee, and security. Okay, minimum throughput guarantee and security is not provided by the TCP, because minimum throughput guarantee is taken care by the application. Okay, so security is also not provided by TCP. Timing also is not provided by TCP. Okay, next, connection oriented. Yes, it provides connection oriented. What do you mean by connection oriented? Setup required between client and server process. That means before sending the data to the receiver, you will just greet the receiver and you will set up a connection. That means okay, we two can communicate from this time to this time with so and so amount of data. All these things will be negotiated, and the connection setup phase is there in the TCP. Basically, that's the reason why TCP is called as connection oriented protocol. Okay, whereas UDP is called as connection less protocol, because UDP doesn't have this process. If UDP have some data, it will simply send. That's all. UDP will not care about flow control, congestion control, connection oriented, nothing. Okay, so let us see what UDP provides. Unreliable data transfer. That's what I told you. So what happens with the reliable data transfer? Your communication will get slow because it has to check all these. Okay, so your communication will get slow, and even if there is a packet loss, the next packet will not be sent. So this type of TCP service will not help in multimedia applications like interactive gaming, audio, video. TCP will not help for that, whereas UDP will help for that, because even if there is a packet loss, UDP will keep on transferring the next packets. Okay, so UDP is termed as unreliable data transfer between sending and receiving process. What it does not provide, it does not provide reliability. Yes, you will not get to know whether the packet is received by the receiver or not. It doesn't provide flow control, congestion control, timing, throughput guarantee, security, or connection setup. All these things is not provided by UDP. Okay, so When UDP is not providing all this, why do you need or why do you require UDP? That's what I told you. For multimedia applications, we do not need this reliable transport, flow control and congestion control. I told you why. Why for multimedia applications we do not require this flow control, congestion control, reliable? Because see, for example, if I am going through a video conferencing, what is video? Basically, the images are sent continuously. Okay, images are sent continuously. That means thousands of images are sent at per second, every second. Okay, if one or two images are lost in between, still your communication will continue, right? It will not affect your communication. So whereas in TCP, if you are using TCP for that kind of communication, if one image is lost, TCP will check why that image is lost. It will wait for some time and then it will send a retransmit that image. And for every image, it has to get a response, acknowledgement it has to get. That's what the TCP stands for. TCP sends a packet, it has to get an acknowledgement, only then it sends the next packet. Okay, whereas in UDP that is not there. Okay, students. So let us see few applications and what are the application layer protocol and transport layer protocol for those applications. If it is email, SMTP is the application layer protocol, simple mail transfer protocol. We are going to study in depth about this. Okay, and the underlying transport protocol is TCP, because you need to know whether the email has been received by the other end or not. Okay, it should be reliable. Remote terminal access, telnet, and in the transport layer also it should be TCP. Web means what? Some browsing, you send some query to a server and you get a response, that is through HTTP. That also requires TCP connection, because you need to have, it should be reliable. File transfer, of course, that also should be with TCP, and the protocol is FTP here in the application layer. Next comes streaming multimedia. Okay, online, that means multimedia applications. You may use HTTP. Say for example, YouTube uses HTTP. There is another protocol called as RTP. Okay, so these are the protocols which runs in application layer. We are not going to study RTP in this semester, but for these type of protocols, you can either use TCP or UDP. It's totally depends on the application developer. Is that clear, students? For internet telephony, again you are using RTP or a proprietary protocol called as Skype. So all these again can use either TCP or UDP. Is that clear? So this is what you need to understand. Whenever you see a protocol, you should be in a position to tell, okay, this protocol requires this application layer, whenever you see an application, you should be in a position to clearly tell, okay, this application belongs to this application layer protocol and this requires this transport layer protocol. Is that clear, students? Am I clear, students?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's about different application examples. And see the two this particular table, and this table is quite a informative table for you. You need to understand this. Okay, so how do you secure TCP? So there are a lot of ways where you can secure TCP. TCP and UDP doesn't provide any encryption. So clear text password sent into socket traverse internet in clear text. So how do you provide it? There's something called as SSL, secure socket layer. SSL is secure socket layer, provides encrypted TCP connection. What do you mean by encrypt, students? What do you mean by encryption? Can anyone tell me what do you mean by encryption? Am I audible? Hello? Am I audible, students?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Have you not come across the word encryption till now?
Encoding the data.
Okay. So basically, for example, I am sending the data from my system to another system. So if the data is in clear text in the sense data what I enter as it is, I will say enter hi, how are you? It goes as it is in the internet, and in between if some hacker tries to look into my data, hacker can easily understand because it is general English. Hi, how are you? Okay, so that type of a text is called as clear text. Basically TCP sends the text as it is in clear text. But SSL, secure socket layer, is something where that protects your data. Okay, that protects your data in the sense it converts this clear text into a cipher text. Cipher text means what? Hi, how are you will be converted into a separate format. Exactly, either by adding numbers, changing the way you are representing. It does something based on a different encryption protocol. Okay, so it changes it and then sends that data in the medium, so that in between if a hacker looks into the data, it is actually hi, how are you, but it is converted into a different format. The hacker cannot understand that. Is that clear? That process is called as encryption, and after encrypting a clear text you call it as a cipher text. Is that clear? It is not here you can make a note of it. After converting or after encrypting a clear text, it is termed as cipher text. And what happens in the receiver end? A cipher text is received in the receiver end. Receiver end will decrypt it using the same protocol. Okay, the protocol which you use for encryption, the same protocol will be used to decrypt it. Exactly. After decrypting, again that format will be converted into hi, how are you? Okay. So that is what encryption and decryption stands for. SSL will encrypt the TCP data, and which provides data integrity, and endpoint authentication is also provided. Authentication is a different process. I will tell you about authentication later. So what is SSL? SSL is where it is. SSL is in application layer. Apps use SSL libraries which will talk to TCP. SSL socket API, clear text passwords sent into socket, traverse internet encrypted. Is that clear? So it is there in the 7th chapter, complete details, but we are not studying 7th chapter. It is not there in your syllabus. If time permits, we will see, we will take up an example and I will show it to you. Okay, so that's how you secure TCP. Is it clear, students? So we will stop here as of now. If you have any questions, you can ask me, or we will stop now. We'll continue in the next class. Any questions, students? Yes? Shall we stop?
Yes.
Okay, fine then. We'll meet in the next class.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. I added it. No? Kundala. I have added Gundala Jain. In the beginning of the class, he messaged me. I'll tell you what is his name. One student messaged me in the beginning of. Oh no. Krishna Lokesh I added. Gundala Jayant we have to add. Okay. Can you message that registration number? No, I will add. Okay. You can